It was the night of May 14th, 2008, in the quiet farming town of Marshall, Minnesota, the kind of place where nothing ever happens until something does. 19-year-old Brandon Swanson had just finished his spring semester at Minnesota West Community and Technical College. He was studying wind energy, a bright, easygoing kid who loved being around friends. That night, Brandon went out to celebrate the end of the school year. He met friends in nearby Canby, about 30 miles from home. They laughed, took photos, and shared a few drinks. Nothing out of the ordinary. Around midnight, he told everyone he was heading home to Marshall. The drive should have taken just 35 minutes. But Brandon never made it. Around 1:54 a.m., Brandon called his parents from his cell phone. His car had gone off the road and was stuck in a ditch. He wasn't hurt, just frustrated. He told his dad, Brian Swanson, that he thought he was near the town of Lind, a few miles southwest of home. His father offered to come get him. Brandon agreed and said he'd wait by the car, flashing his headlights so they could find him. Brian drove out right away, talking to Brandon on the phone the whole time. But when he got to the area Brandon described, there was no sign of him or his car. As the minutes stretched on, the confusion deepened. Brandon could see flashing lights from his dad's truck, but Brian couldn't see Brandon's headlights at all. They both grew frustrated, trying to describe landmarks and road names in the pitch-black night. Finally, Brandon said he would start walking toward what he thought was the direction of Lind, telling his father to meet him at the edge of town. Still on the phone, Brandon described passing fences, gravel roads, and the sound of running water, maybe a creek. Then, just after 2:30 a.m., something strange happened. The conversation had been calm and steady for almost 47 minutes when Brandon suddenly shouted, "Oh, shit!" The phone went silent. Brian kept calling out his son's name, but there was no response. The line stayed connected for several minutes, then went dead. Panic set in. The Swansons called 911 and reported their son missing immediately. But police were slow to act. They assumed Brandon was just a college kid who'd gone to crash at a friend's house. His parents knew better. At sunrise, a full search began. To everyone's shock, Brandon's Chevy Lumina was found. Not near Lind, but 25 miles away, in a rural area near the tiny town of Taunton. It was stuck on the edge of a gravel road beside a field, miles from where Brandon believed he was. That meant one terrifying thing. Brandon had been completely disoriented that night. He was walking alone in pitch darkness toward what he thought was home, but in the wrong direction. And somewhere between that final shout and the first light of dawn, he vanished. By morning, the quiet farmland near Taunton, Minnesota, had turned into the center of a desperate search. Dozens of volunteers, police officers, and K-9 units spread out in every direction. But what baffled everyone was how Brandon Swanson's car ended up 25 miles from where he thought he was. His Chevy Lumina wasn't wrecked, just lightly stuck in a ditch off a gravel road. The doors were shut, the lights off, and there was no sign of a struggle. The car looked as if it had been carefully parked. Brandon's phone charger and wallet were missing, suggesting he had them when he left. But the land around that spot was tricky. Flat farmland broken by small rivers, deep drainage ditches, and patches of thick brush. If he tried to walk toward the lights of a distant town, it would have been easy to get turned around. Investigators began retracing his last phone call. The conversation with his dad had lasted 47 minutes, ending with that chilling shout, "Oh, shht!" Then, nothing. Cell tower data confirmed the last ping came from an area near the Yellow Medicine River, about 3 miles northwest of Taunton. That detail changed everything. It meant Brandon might have been closer to the river when he vanished, and that his final words could have been him slipping, falling, or seeing something unexpected. Search teams focused there first. Dive crews swept the Yellow Medicine River, thinking he may have fallen in, but day after day they found nothing. Not a shoe, not a piece of clothing, not even his phone. The dogs, though, told a strange story. Tracking dogs followed Brandon's scent from his car through fields, across gravel roads, and down toward the riverbank. The scent trail then stopped right at the water's edge. But when they brought the dogs to the other side of the river, the trail continued again, as if Brandon had somehow crossed. That single detail changed the tone of the entire search. If he crossed the river, he might have survived that night, at least for a while. But beyond the river lay miles of empty farmland, and the temperature had dropped below 40 degrees Celsius. Hypothermia could set in quickly, especially if he was soaked. As weeks passed, every theory imaginable surfaced. Some believed Brandon had fallen into a hidden pit or sinkhole. Others whispered darker theories, that he'd stumbled onto something he wasn't supposed to see, maybe a rural drug operation or an isolated farm with secrets. But there was no evidence of foul play, no witnesses, and no trace of Brandon. The search dragged on for months. Farmers allowed crews to comb through their fields. Ditches were drained, old wells checked, and abandoned buildings searched. Still, nothing. By winter, hope began to fade. Brandon's parents refused to give up. They continued organizing searches long after police scaled back. They even pushed lawmakers to pass Brandon's Law in 2009, requiring authorities to treat missing person cases seriously, no matter the person's age. It was their way of ensuring what happened to their son would never happen to another family. But even with the new law, the question remained. What really happened that night? Did Brandon fall into the river and get carried away by the current? Did he succumb to the cold somewhere no one has yet searched? Or did he simply vanish? To this day, not a single trace of Brandon Swanson has ever been found. And what haunts people most is how normal the night started. A simple drive home, a quick phone call, a calm conversation, until those last horrifying words. Oh, shit. Weeks turned into months, and the search for Brandon Swanson stretched across miles of open land. His parents, Brian and Annette Swanson, refused to stop looking. They organized volunteer groups, combed through satellite maps, and even brought in independent experts. But with every new search came the same result. Nothing. No clothing, no phone, no remains. It was as if the earth itself had swallowed Brandon whole. The disappearance struck a deep nerve across Minnesota. Brandon wasn't a troubled kid, he wasn't running from anything, and he hadn't been in an accident serious enough to hide his body. He had simply vanished in plain sight. The image of him walking into the darkness that night, phone to his ear, talking calmly to his father, became one of the eeriest mysteries in American true crime. Investigators began reviewing every possibility. The first and most accepted theory was accidental drowning. The idea: Brandon fell into the Yellow Medicine River during the call. That final shout possibly being him slipping into the water. But repeated dives, sonar scans, and river drags turned up nothing. Even if his body had been carried downstream, it should have surfaced or been found during floods in later years. The second theory suggested hypothermia. If he crossed the river and continued walking, wet and disoriented, the cold night could have overwhelmed him. Search dogs had tracked his scent past the river, through open fields, and toward a grove of trees before losing it again. If Brandon had collapsed somewhere in that area, his remains might still lie hidden under layers of brush or farmland, untouched for years. But there were other theories too, the ones people whisper about online. Some believe Brandon was taken after encountering someone in that rural area. The way his car was parked, the sudden stop in his call, and the total lack of evidence have eluded speculation that another person was involved. Yet investigators have never found a shred of proof of foul play, no suspicious tire marks, no signs of a struggle, no witnesses. In truth, the most haunting part of the case isn't what's known, it's what's missing. That one phone call lasting nearly an hour is the only record of Brandon's final moments. His father heard him moving, talking, even laughing a bit, until that final second. And every year since 2008, Brian and Annette have replayed that night in their minds, wondering if they could have done something different. In 2009, Brandon's parents turned their grief into action, successfully helping to pass Brandon's Law in Minnesota. The law ensures that when an adult is reported missing, police can immediately begin searching. No waiting period, no assumptions. It was their way of turning tragedy into protection for others. Still, the Swansons never found peace. They continued to search privately, hoping to bring their son home. Even today, nearly 2 decades later, Brandon Swanson's case remains open, classified as a missing person, presumed deceased. To this day, the people of Marshall and Taunton say that when you drive through the back roads on quiet nights, the air feels heavy, like the land still remembers. And for many, Brandon's story is more than just a case. It's a reminder of how quickly normal life can turn into a mystery that defies explanation. He wasn't running. He wasn't hiding. He just wanted to go home. And somewhere out there, between the gravel roads and the whispering fields, the truth still waits to be found. If you found this story chilling, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real-life crime documentaries. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.